After my house was robbed and thieves took everything I had collected for decades, my daughter-in-law suddenly started flaunting a magnificent mansion and a shiny new Tesla. She smirked at me, convinced I was just a broken old man who would never figure it out. But I knew. This wasn't luck. I smiled back and quietly began executing my plan. Exactly 3 days later, she was pounding on my door, screaming hysterically, "I hate you! Stop this right now!" Before continuing, subscribe to our new channel, where we tell stories about men who take revenge on their insolent children, sons-in-law, and daughters-in-law. My name is Vernon Curtis. I'm 67 years old, and I live in the Buckhead district of Atlanta, Georgia. Spent 38 years as an insurance inspector before retirement, specializing in fraud investigation. That job taught me one simple truth. People will lie about anything if there's money involved. I just never thought my own family would prove that point. My son Curtis, yes, we share a name, his mother's idea, moved back in with me 3 years ago with his wife Amanda. He's 38 now, works as a sales manager at a car dealership. Or worked, I should say. Amanda is 35, blonde, beautiful in that cold porcelain doll way. She hasn't worked since they got married 5 years ago. Said she was focusing on building their future. I paid the bills, cooked dinners, kept the house running. They contributed exactly nothing. Curtis wasn't always like this. When he was young, he'd wait by the window for me to come home from work. We'd throw a football in the yard until dark. But Amanda changed him, slowly, methodically, like rust eating through metal. I watched my son turn into someone I didn't recognize, entitled, dismissive, always looking for the easy way out. The house on Peachtree Road has been my home for 23 years. 2 stories, classic Georgian architecture, worth about $580,000 according to the latest appraisal. But its real value was in what I kept inside, my collection of antique pocket watches. 73 timepieces, some dating back to the 1800s. I'd spent decades finding them, restoring them, learning their histories. Each one was a small piece of frozen time. Amanda would walk past my workshop without a glance. Curtis stopped asking about the collection years ago. That should have told me something. It was a Tuesday morning when I came home from my weekly coffee with old colleagues. The front door was ajar, not broken, just open. My stomach dropped. The alarm system was disarmed, properly with the code. Someone had turned it off from the inside. I stepped through the door and knew immediately. The house felt wrong, violated. My workshop was destroyed. Every drawer pulled open, every cabinet ransacked. The glass display cases, shattered. 73 pocket watches, gone. All of them. The empty cases lay scattered across the floor like broken promises. They'd also taken my late mother's jewelry from the bedroom safe. Knew exactly where it was, exactly how to open it. The combination was written down in exactly one place, a notebook I kept in my desk drawer. Someone had found it, used it, and left. Cash from my emergency fund. $12,000 gone. Total loss? Roughly $85,000. I called the police first, then my insurance company, Southern States Insurance, where I still knew half the adjusters. My hands shook as I dialed, not from fear, from rage. The responding officer was young, maybe 25. Officer Davis. He walked through the scene with me, taking notes. Any signs of forced entry, Mr. Curtis? None. They knew the alarm code. Who has access to that code? Just me. And my son and his wife. They live here. Davis's pen paused on his notepad. Where are they now? Work, I assume. We'll need to speak with them. Rule them out. Standard procedure. I nodded, but something cold was already forming in my gut. The professionals who did this knew exactly what to take, exactly where to find it, exactly how to disable the security. That kind of precision doesn't come from random burglars. Curtis and Amanda came home that evening. I was sitting in the living room, surrounded by police tape and fingerprint dust. "Oh my goodness," Amanda gasped, hand flying to her mouth. "Vernon, what happened?" Her performance was flawless. The shocked concern, the trembling voice, the way she gripped Curtis's arm for support. If I hadn't spent 4 decades catching liars, I might have believed her. Curtis looked genuinely shaken. "Dad, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "I was out. They took the watches, all of them, your grandmother's jewelry, the cash. Amanda sat down heavily. That's terrible. Those watches were priceless. Not priceless. $73,000 worth, according to my last appraisal, plus $12,000 in cash and jewelry, valued at roughly $9,500. I watched her face carefully as I listed the numbers. Nothing. Not a flicker. Either she was innocent, or she was very, very good. The police questioned them separately. Standard procedure. Curtis was nervous but cooperative. Amanda was calm, helpful, appropriately distressed. They both claimed they'd been at work all day. The dealership would confirm Curtis's alibi. Amanda had been running errands. No specific timeline, no witnesses. After the police left, Amanda made tea. Brought me a cup with 2 sugars, exactly how I like it. We'll get through this, she said softly. Family sticks together. I looked at her perfect smile and thought about the alarm code, the safe combination, the surgical precision of the theft. Yes, I said. Family. The insurance adjuster came the next day. Catherine Hopkins, 44, sharp as a tack. We'd worked together on dozens of cases before my retirement. Vernon, she said, reviewing her notes, this is a significant claim. We'll need complete documentation of the collection. I have photographs, receipts, appraisal certificates. Everything's documented. Good. That'll speed things up. She looked around the workshop. The thieves knew what they were doing. Professionals. Or someone with inside knowledge. She met my eyes. No forced entry. Alarm disabled properly. Safe opened with the combination. I'm aware of the implications, Catherine. She nodded slowly. The investigation will take a few weeks. We'll process the claim as quickly as possible, but given the circumstances... I understand. Do your job. I'd do the same. After she left, I sat in my workshop among the broken glass and empty cases. 38 years investigating insurance fraud had taught me to recognize patterns. This wasn't random. This was planned, calculated, personal. I just didn't want to believe my own son could do this to me. Not yet. The week after the burglary, I couldn't sleep. Every night, I'd lie awake thinking about those empty display cases, about the alarm code only 3 people knew, about Amanda's perfect performance for the police. I kept replaying a memory from 6 months ago. Curtis and Amanda in the kitchen talking in low voices. I'd come in for water, and they'd stopped mid-sentence. Amanda had smiled brightly. Just discussing our anniversary trip, she'd said, but Curtis's face had been guilty, caught. I dismissed it then. Now it gnawed at me. The following week, I drove to the hardware store for new locks. The route took me past the Tesla dealership on Peachtree. That's when I saw her, Amanda, standing next to a gleaming black Tesla Model X, laughing with a salesman. She was signing papers. I pulled into the lot and parked where she couldn't see me. Watched her hand over documents. Watched the salesman shake her hand. Watched her run her fingers along the car's hood, like she was caressing a lover. A Tesla Model X. Base price around $94,000. My son made $52,000 a year. Amanda didn't work. They had no savings. I knew because Curtis had asked me for a loan just 2 months ago to cover credit card debt. I sat in my truck until she drove away in that shining new car, and something inside me went very still and very cold. That evening I drove through Buckhead trying to clear my head, took a wrong turn and ended up on West Paces Ferry Road, one of the most expensive streets in Atlanta. And there it was, a sold sign in front of a magnificent 3-story mansion with a circular driveway and white columns. The sign was recent, still crisp. Curtis's car was in the driveway. I drove past slowly, my mind racing. A house like that on West Paces Ferry would be at least $1,200,000. Probably more. They'd robbed me barely a week ago, and now they had a Tesla and a mansion. I went home and did what I do best. I investigated. Property records are public in Georgia. Took me 20 minutes to confirm it. The house at 1523 West Paces Ferry Road had sold for exactly $1,200,000. Buyers, Curtis and Amanda Curtis. Down payment, $240,000. Closing date, 3 days ago. $250,000 in cash. I remembered another flashback then. Curtis at 15, crying in my workshop after his mother's funeral. I miss her, Dad. I'd held him, promised him we'd be okay. We're family, I told him. Family takes care of each other. When had that stopped being true? I heard their car pull up around 8. They were laughing. Actually laughing. I met them at the door. "Vernon!" Amanda's smile was radiant. "We have wonderful news." "Do you?" "Curtis got a huge promotion and a bonus. We bought a house." Curtis stood behind her, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, Dad. Things are really looking up." "A house on West Paces Ferry Road," I said quietly. "And a new Tesla. Quite a promotion." Amanda's smile didn't waver. "Curtis is very talented. His dealership is finally recognizing that." $240,000 down payment. Must have been some bonus. Plus Curtis's commission from the last quarter. We've been saving. The lie was so smooth, so confident. She actually believed I'd swallow it. What dealership pays a $52,000 a year sales manager enough to afford a $1,200,000 house and a $94,000 car in the same week? Curtis finally looked at me. "Dad, it's complicated. Business finances, you wouldn't—" "I spent 38 years investigating fraud, son. Try me." Amanda's expression shifted, still smiling, but colder now. "It's our money, Vernon, our business. Curtis works very hard." "I'm sure he does." I kept my voice level. "Congratulations on your windfall. Quite the coincidence. 1 week after someone robbed this house." "Are you accusing us of something?" Her voice turned to ice. "I'm observing timing. The insurance adjusters will do the same." Curtis stepped forward. "Dad, we had nothing to do with the robbery. We were cleared by the police." "Alibis are easy to arrange when you hire the right people." Amanda's mask finally cracked. "This is ridiculous. We don't have to stand here and be insulted." "No," I agreed. "You have a mansion to move into. Don't let me keep you." They left. The house felt emptier than it had, even with all my treasures gone. I sat in my workshop that night, surrounded by empty cases, and made a decision. If they wanted to play games with insurance fraud, they'd pick the wrong mark. I knew every trick, every loophole, every way to trace money and prove conspiracy. I'd spent a career putting criminals behind bars. The fact that this particular criminal was my son didn't change the fundamentals. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Stopped at a name I hadn't called in 5 years. Gerald Mitchell. Private investigator, former police detective, specialized in financial crimes. My finger hovered over the call button. In my mind, I saw Curtis at 8 years old, showing me a drawing he'd made. "Look, Dad, it's us." 2 stick figures throwing a football. Then I saw Amanda's cold smile, saw the Tesla, saw the mansion bought with my stolen property. I pressed dial. "Gerald, it's Vernon Curtis. I need your help with something. How much do you charge for a full surveillance package?" "Vernon, long time. Depends on the scope. What are we talking about?" "Insurance fraud, conspiracy, probably involving organized crime connections. The targets are family." A pause. "Family?" "My son and his wife. I think they staged the robbery of my house to collect insurance money. They just bought a $1,200,000 house and a Tesla with cash I think they're planning to get from my claim." "That's serious? I'll need to verify everything, build an airtight case." "I know. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in justice. My rate is $175 an hour plus expenses. A case like this? Figure $3,500 minimum to start." "Do it." After I hung up, I sat in the darkness of my workshop. The empty display cases caught the moonlight. Curtis and Amanda thought they'd won. Thought the old man was too broken, too trusting to see the truth. They were about to learn what 38 years of investigating criminals had taught me. I smiled in the dark. The game was just beginning. 3 days later, I met Gerald Mitchell at a coffee shop on Peachtree Road, Café Intermezzo, neutral ground where neither Curtis nor Amanda would stumble across us. Gerald was early 50s, graying hair, the kind of face that blends into any crowd, perfect for his line of work. "Vernon," he shook my hand and slid a folder across the table. "I've started preliminary surveillance. Your son and daughter-in-law are interesting subjects." I opened the folder. Photographs. Curtis and Amanda at their new mansion, Amanda loading shopping bags into the Tesla, both of them at an upscale restaurant I knew cost $200 per person minimum. "They're not exactly hiding their newfound wealth," Gerald observed. "No. They think I'm just a grieving old man too broken to connect the dots." "Are you? Broken, I mean." I looked at the photos. Amanda's smile was radiant, triumphant. Curtis looked relaxed, happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. "No," I said. "I'm done being broken." Gerald nodded. "Good. Because what I'm about to tell you requires a clear head. I need you to authorize a full financial audit. I have connections at several banks, but I'll need your signature on some documents. Legal gray area, but everything will be admissible in court. What are we looking for? Money trails? Your son makes $52,000 a year. Even with perfect credit and zero debt, which he doesn't have, no bank would approve him for that mortgage without serious capital. Someone funded that down payment." I signed the papers he pushed across the table. "How much? For the full package? Financial audit, surveillance, background checks on known associates, $3,500 up front, then $175 per hour for active surveillance." I wrote him a check without hesitation. Money I'd saved for retirement, for emergencies. This qualified. "One more thing," I said. "I need a lawyer, someone who specializes in insurance fraud and civil litigation." Gerald smiled. "I know just the person." That evening Amanda called. Her voice was honey-sweet. "Vernon, Curtis and I are having a housewarming party this Saturday. You simply must come. It would mean so much to us." I could hear the smugness underneath the sweetness. She wanted me to see their success, wanted to rub my face in it. "What time?" I asked. 7 o'clock. "And Vernon?" "It's formal. Do you still have your Navy suit?" The one I'd worn to my retirement party, to my mother's funeral, to every important occasion for the last 20 years. "I'll find something appropriate." "Wonderful. See you then?" I hung up and looked around my workshop. The empty display cases seemed to stare back at me, accusing. But I wasn't that victim anymore. I was becoming something else, something patient, something methodical, something they should have feared. The next morning I met with Ronald Stewart, the attorney Gerald had recommended. His office was on Peachtree Street, 17th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Atlanta. Ronald was 61, sharp-eyed, with the kind of quiet confidence that comes from winning more cases than you lose. "Mr. Curtis," he said, gesturing to a leather chair. "Gerald filled me in on the basics. Insurance fraud, suspicious timing, family members as suspects." "Alleged suspects," I corrected. "I need proof before I make accusations." "Smart. That's why you're here." He opened a legal pad. "I'm going to need complete documentation of your insurance claim, timeline of events, financial records for Curtis and Amanda, if you can get them, and any evidence of their current assets." "I can get most of that." "Good. My retainer is $2,800. That covers initial consultation, document review, and preparation of legal strategy. If we move forward with civil litigation, costs will increase substantially." "I understand." I wrote another check. My retirement savings were disappearing fast, but I didn't care. Some things are worth more than money. Ronald studied me over his reading glasses. "Vernon, I have to ask, are you prepared for where this might lead? If they're guilty, if we prove fraud, you're looking at criminal charges, prison time. Your son could go to jail. My son made his choice when he robbed me." "Fair enough." He made a note. "We'll start with the financial audit. Once we have concrete evidence of where their money came from, we can build from there." That Saturday, I drove to the mansion on West Paces Ferry Road. The circular driveway was packed with luxury cars, Mercedes, BMWs, another Tesla. The house was lit up like a palace, music drifting through the spring evening. Amanda met me at the door in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. "Vernon, you came." She kissed my cheek, her perfume overwhelming. Come in, come in. Let me show you around." The foyer alone was bigger than my living room. Marble floors, crystal chandelier, a staircase that curved up to the second floor like something from a movie. The living room had 20-foot ceilings, modern art on the walls, furniture that looked expensive and uncomfortable. "Isn't it magnificent?" Amanda gushed, leading me through room after room. "We got such a good deal on the furniture. Curtis has been working so hard." I smiled and nodded, playing the proud father. But I was cataloging everything. The $8,000 sectional sofa, the imported Italian tile in the kitchen, the Sub-Zero refrigerator, The wine cellar stocked with bottles I recognized as collectibles. Rough estimate, they'd spent $150,000 furnishing this place. Minimum. Curtis found me in the study, looking at his new mahogany desk. "Hey, Dad, what do you think?" "It's impressive, son. Must have cost a fortune." He laughed, nervous. "Amanda has good taste, sometimes too good." "Where'd you say this promotion money came from?" "Regional Sales Performance Bonus. Top producer in the Southeast District." The lie came so easily now, not even a flicker of guilt. "That's quite an achievement. Your dealership must value you highly." "They do. Finally." He looked around the study, avoiding my eyes. "I know it's fast, moving out and everything, but Amanda and I, we needed our own space, to build our future." "I understand completely." I spent 2 hours at that party, smiling, congratulating them, playing the part of the foolish old man who believed their lies. All the while I was watching, observing, taking mental notes, the way Amanda bragged about their good fortune to the other guests, how Curtis drank too much and got loud about his business success, the expensive catering, the premium liquor, the casual displays of wealth that didn't match a car salesman's salary. They were performing, badly, and everyone was watching. When I left, Amanda hugged me. "Thank you for coming, Vernon. It means everything to have your support." "Family," I said. "We stick together, right?" "Always." I drove home through the quiet Atlanta streets, past the mansions and the luxury cars, back to my modest house on Peachtree Road, back to my empty workshop and broken display cases. But I wasn't empty anymore. I was full of purpose, full of plans. They'd invited me into their palace of lies, showed me everything they'd bought with my stolen property. Big mistake. In my workshop, I started a new file, labeled it simply Evidence. Inside went photos from the party, notes on their spending, observations about their behavior. Gerald had taught me to document everything. Ronald had taught me that cases are built on details. They'd taught me well. 2 weeks passed. I fell into a routine that would have looked mundane to anyone watching. Morning coffee, afternoon walks, evenings in my workshop pretending to organize what little remained. But beneath that routine, I was hunting. Gerald called every few days with updates. Curtis had been seen meeting with his dealership manager 3 times in 1 week, unusual for someone supposedly excelling at work. Amanda spent her days shopping, lunching with friends at expensive restaurants, posting photos of her new life on social media. "She's documenting everything herself," Gerald said with amusement, "making our job easier." "Arrogance," I replied. "They think they've won." "Let them think that. Confident criminals make mistakes." I started noticing other things too, small details I'd overlooked before. The way Amanda would sometimes slip documents into her purse when she thought I wasn't looking, back when they still lived with me. How Curtis would take phone calls in the garage, speaking in low, urgent tones. The bank statements I'd seen once briefly, showing multiple transfers to an account I didn't recognize. I dismissed it all as normal married couple finances. Private business. Now I saw it for what it was. Conspiracy. One afternoon, while Curtis and Amanda were out, I walked through my house, their old living space. Amanda had been careless during their move. In the trash, I found a receipt from the tavern at Phipps, a bar in Buckhead, dated 2 months before the robbery. Nothing suspicious on its own except the total, $187 for 3 people. 3 people. Curtis, Amanda, and who? I photographed it and sent it to Gerald. His response came an hour later. "Interesting. I'll check it out." The following week, Ronald called me to his office. "We've completed the preliminary financial audit," he said, spreading documents across his desk. "And Vernon, it's worse than we thought." "How bad?" "The down payment on the house, $240,000, came from a newly opened offshore account in the Bahamas, opened 3 months ago in Amanda's name only." My stomach clenched. 3 months before the robbery. Exactly. The account currently holds $847,000. I did the math instantly. My stolen property, $85,000. The insurance payout Southern states would eventually pay for my antique watch collection, $762,000. Those specific figures weren't public knowledge yet. The insurance company was still processing my claim. "That's the exact amount of my claim," I said slowly. To the dollar. Yes. Ronald leaned back in his chair. They opened that account expecting to receive $847,000. They knew exactly what the insurance would pay before the robbery even happened. But how? The appraisals were confidential. You said your son lived with you, had access to your files, your documents. I closed my eyes. Of course. My meticulous record-keeping, all the appraisals and certificates I'd kept for insurance purposes, all filed neatly in my office. Curtis had simply copied them, handed them to whoever he'd hired to steal from me. There's more, Ronald continued. The mortgage on their house, $960,000 at 6.8% interest. Their monthly payment is $6,200. Curtis's salary, after taxes, is roughly $3,400 per month. Even with zero other expenses, they can't afford it. They're banking on the insurance money. Exactly. They need that $762,000 to survive. Without it, they'll default on the mortgage within 6 months. I sat back, processing. They hadn't just robbed me. They'd bet their entire future on it. What do you recommend? Ronald smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We have enough for a civil suit right now. We file claiming fraud, demanding return of funds, seeking damages. But if we wait a few more weeks, let Gerald dig deeper, we might find enough for criminal charges. How long? Give it until mid-April. If Gerald finds what I think he'll find, evidence of who they hired to commit the burglary, proof of conspiracy, we can hand this to the FBI. Insurance fraud over $100,000 is a federal crime. The FBI, I let that sink in. My son would go to prison. Your son robbed you. He conspired to commit insurance fraud. He gambled with your property and your trust. Ronald's voice was firm. The question isn't whether he deserves consequences. It's whether you're willing to deliver them. I thought about Curtis at 8, showing me his drawings. At 15, crying over his mother. At 25, promising to make me proud. Then I thought about the empty display cases, the violated safe, Amanda's triumphant smile. I'm willing, I said. That night, Gerald called with an update I hadn't expected. I found your third person, the one at the tavern at Phipps. Who? Mark Walker, known associate of organized crime, specializes in high-end burglaries. Been arrested 4 times, convicted once, currently on parole. My blood ran cold. They hired a professional criminal. More than that. I pulled surveillance footage from the bar's parking lot, took some creative persuasion, but I got it. There's your son, clear as day, handing Mark Walker an envelope. They talked for 40 minutes, 2 months before your house was robbed. Can you prove what was in the envelope? Not yet. But I'm working on it. Mark Walker has a pattern. He always gets paid half up front, half after the job. If your son paid him, there'll be a record somewhere. Find it. I will. But Vernon, there's something else you should know. Walker's parole officer is a friend of mine. I made some calls. Walker's been flashing money lately. New car, paid off debts, living beyond his means. So he's spending his cut. Exactly. And if we can prove Curtis paid him, if we can connect Walker to the robbery, your son and daughter-in-law aren't just looking at fraud charges. They're looking at conspiracy, theft, and organized crime connections. I sat in my workshop that night, surrounded by the tools I'd used to restore my pocket watches. Delicate work, requiring patience and precision, this would require the same. I opened my laptop and started a new document. Timeline of evidence. Every date, every transaction, every lie they'd told. I organized it chronologically, cross-referenced it with Gerald's surveillance reports and Ronald's financial audits. The picture that emerged was damning. They'd planned this for months. Researched my collection, copied my documentation, found a professional to execute the theft, opened offshore accounts to hide the money, bought the mansion before the insurance even paid out. Every step calculated, every move deliberate. They'd underestimated one thing: me. By the time I finished that document, it was 3 a.m. My eyes burned, my back ached, but I felt more alive than I had in months. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the investigator, the hunter, the one who saw through the lies. And I was getting close. I sent the timeline to Ronald and Gerald. Attached a simple note. Keep digging. I want everything. Curtis called the next day, his voice strained. "Dad, can we talk? Just you and me?" "Of course, son. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I miss having coffee with you. Like we used to." For a moment, just a moment, I heard the boy he used to be, the one who needed his father. Then I remembered the offshore account, the hired criminal, the lies. "Let's meet tomorrow," I said. "Cafe Intermezzo, 10 o'clock. "Thanks, Dad. Thank you." I hung up and looked at my evidence file. Tomorrow I'd sit across from my son and pretend everything was fine. Pretend I didn't know about Mark Walker, about the Bahamas account, about their crumbling finances. I'd smile and drink coffee and play the fool one more time, because that's what investigators do. We wait, we watch, we let the guilty think they're safe, and then, when the evidence is perfect, when the case is airtight, when there's no escape, we strike. I was almost ready. The coffee meeting with Curtis was painful. He sat across from me, stirring sugar into his cup, talking about nothing. The weather, sports, anything but the truth hanging between us like smoke. "Dad, I know things have been weird since the robbery," he said finally. "I just want you to know, we're here for you, Amanda and I." I watched him lie to my face and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just cold calculation. "I appreciate that, son. Have you heard anything from the insurance company? About the claim?" There it was, the real reason for this meeting. Catherine's still processing everything. These things take time. Relief flooded his face. "Of course. Yeah. Just, if you need help with anything, let us know." "I will." After he left, I sat there for another hour, drinking coffee that had gone cold. Then I made my move. I called Catherine Hopkins at Southern States Insurance. We'd worked together for 15 years before my retirement. She trusted me, respected my judgment. "Catherine, I need to meet with you. Privately. It's about my claim." "Vernon, you know I can't discuss ongoing cases outside of... I have evidence of insurance fraud related to my case." "Evidence you'll want to see." Silence. Then, "Come to my office. 1 hour." I arrived with a briefcase full of documents. Gerald's surveillance reports, the offshore account information, the connection to Mark Walker, the timeline showing they'd planned this months in advance. Catherine spread everything across her desk, her expression darkening with each page. "Vernon, this is your son. I know. If this is true, if they orchestrated this robbery to collect insurance money, we're talking about federal charges. The FBI will get involved." "I know that too." She looked at me, really looked at me. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I thought about my empty workshop, the violated safe, Amanda's triumphant smile at the housewarming party. "They stole from me. They planned to steal from you." "Yes, I'm sure." Catherine gathered the documents. "I'll need to report this to our fraud investigation unit. They'll contact the authorities. Once I do this, Vernon, there's no going back." "Good." She made the call while I sat there, watching her speak to her supervisor, watching the machinery of justice begin to turn. It felt right. Final. When she hung up, she said, "We're freezing any payment on your claim pending investigation, and we'll be filing a report with the district attorney's office." "Thank you." "Vernon, I'm sorry. I know this can't be easy. It's not, but it's necessary." I left her office and drove straight to Ronald's. He was waiting with documents of his own. "I prepared the civil suit," he said, sliding papers across his desk. "We're suing Curtis and Amanda Curtis for fraud, theft, and damages totaling $847,000. The stolen property plus the insurance claim they attempted to collect fraudulently." The numbers were real now, official, legally binding. "We file this, they'll know immediately," Ronald continued. "They'll get served with a summons within 72 hours. "File it." "Vernon, file it, Ronald." He nodded and picked up the phone. Made the call to the courthouse. I listened to him speak in legal terms, establishing case numbers, scheduling preliminary hearings. When he finished, he said, "It's done. The summons will be delivered by the end of the week." I felt something shift inside me. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just rightness, like a watch clicking into place. "One more thing," I said. "I need to update my will." Ronald raised an eyebrow. "Cutting him out? Every penny. I want it documented, notarized, filed properly. Curtis gets nothing when I die. I'll draw up the paperwork. That evening I sat in my workshop with a glass of whiskey, something I rarely did, and looked at the empty cases. Soon, very soon, Curtis and Amanda would know I knew. They'd panic, scramble, probably hire lawyers they couldn't afford. They'd realize the old man wasn't as broken as they thought. I took out my phone and scrolled through Amanda's social media. She'd posted new photos that afternoon, her and Curtis at a fancy restaurant, champagne glasses raised, her caption reading, "Living our best life. Dreams really do come true. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag new beginnings." I stared at that hashtag. Blessed. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning I met with a notary public Ronald had recommended. Signed the new will in front of witnesses. Everything I owned, the house, my savings, my pension, everything would go to charity. The Atlanta Historical Society would get my house, and whatever remained of my estate. Curtis would get exactly what he'd given me. Nothing. "Mr. Curtis," the notary said as I signed the final page, "you understand this completely disinherits your son?" "I understand perfectly." That weekend I did something I hadn't done since the robbery. I went to my favorite antique shop in Virginia Highland, a place I'd spent countless Saturday mornings over the years. The owner, Thomas Bennett, greeted me with genuine concern. "Vernon, I heard about the robbery. I'm so sorry about your collection." "Thank you, Thomas. If you're looking to rebuild, I have some pieces that might interest you." "Not today. Today I'm just visiting." I walked through the shop, looking at pocket watches I couldn't afford to buy anymore. I'd spent my savings on lawyers and investigators. But I didn't feel sad. I felt purposeful. My collection was gone, but I'd get justice. And somehow, that was enough. On the drive home, my phone rang. "Gerald. Vernon, I have something you need to hear. Can you come by my office?" "On my way." Gerald's office was in a strip mall in Chambly, unpretentious and functional. He met me at the door with a laptop. I got the security footage from the tavern at Phipps. Took some convincing and a few favors, but I got it. He played the video. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. Curtis sitting in a booth with Mark Walker, talking for 30 minutes. Then Curtis reaching into his jacket and pulling out an envelope, passing it across the table. Walker counting what was inside, cash, obviously, and nodding. "That's your son paying a known criminal," Gerald said, "2 months before your house was robbed. Can you prove what was in the envelope?" Walker's parole officer is cooperative. Walker deposited $15,000 cash the next day. Claimed it was from selling a car, but couldn't produce any paperwork. This video proves Curtis gave him that money. I watched the video again. My son, my only child, conspiring with a criminal to rob his own father. "Send it to Ronald and Catherine," I said. "They'll need it." "Already done. Vernon, this is enough for criminal charges. Federal charges. Your son is going to prison." I nodded slowly. "I know." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Curtis at 8 years old, showing me his homework. At 15, asking for advice about girls. At 23, introducing me to Amanda for the first time. So proud, so happy. Where had I gone wrong? Or had Amanda done this to him? Corrupted him? Changed him into someone who could rob his own father? It didn't matter anymore. The choice was made. The papers were filed. The evidence was gathered. Tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, Curtis and Amanda would get served with the lawsuit. The insurance company would notify them of the fraud investigation, and then the real show would begin. I fell asleep finally, around 4 in the morning, and dreamed of empty display cases filling up with watches. But when I looked closer, the watches were all broken, their hands frozen at different times. The dream woke me at dawn. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and wondered if justice would feel like I thought it would. Only one way to find out. 3 days later, I was in my workshop when I heard a car screech into my driveway. The engine cut off abruptly, followed by a car door slamming hard enough to rattle windows. I knew that sound. Rage. Panic. The front door burst open without a knock. Amanda's voice, shrill and furious, echoed through the house. "Vernon, where are you?" I stayed in my workshop, waiting. Let her come to me. She appeared in the doorway, face flushed red, hair disheveled, waving papers in her hand. The civil suit summons. Right on schedule. "What is this?" she screamed. "What the hell is this?" I looked up from the pocket watch I was pretending to examine, one of the few pieces that hadn't been in the collection, a cheap modern reproduction I kept for parts. "Legal papers from the look of it. Don't play dumb with me. You're suing us? For $847,000? Are you out of your mind?" "Sit down, Amanda. You're going to want to sit down for this." "I'm not sitting anywhere. I hate you. Do you hear me? I hate you." Her voice cracked on the last word, hysteria bleeding through the anger. I'd seen this reaction before, in fraud suspects who realized they'd been caught. The rage panic cocktail that comes when the walls start closing in. "You should hate yourself," I said calmly. "You're the one who orchestrated a robbery." Her face went white, actually white, like someone had drained the blood from it. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. "Close the door," I said, "unless you want the neighbors to hear this." She slammed it shut, hands shaking. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know about Mark Walker. I know about the Bahamas account with $847,000 in it. I know Curtis met with Walker 2 months before the robbery and paid him $15,000 cash. I know you planned this, Amanda. All of it." She grabbed the doorframe for support, legs visibly unsteady. You can't prove any of that." I pulled out the folder I'd prepared, the same evidence I'd given to Catherine and Ronald, but formatted nicely for maximum impact. I opened it on my workbench. Bank statements showing the offshore account. Opened 3 months before the robbery. In your name only. I tapped the first page. Surveillance photos of Curtis meeting with Mark Walker. Tap. Security footage from the bar showing Curtis handing Walker an envelope of cash. Tap. Financial analysis showing there's no legitimate way you could afford a $1,200,000 house on Curtis's salary. Tap. Amanda stared at the documents like they were snakes. Her breathing got faster, shallower. "You were supposed to be broken," she whispered. "You were supposed to just accept it." "Surprise!" She lunged forward, grabbed the folder, and threw it across the room. Papers scattered everywhere. "You can't do this. We'll fight it. We'll tell everyone you're a senile old man making up stories." "Go ahead. The insurance company already has copies. So does my attorney. So does the fraud investigation unit. You throwing a tantrum in my workshop doesn't change the evidence." Her face transformed. The rage collapsed into something that looked almost like fear. Real, genuine fear. Her eyes went wide, pupils dilated, and I watched her really realize, that she was caught. "There's more," I said quietly. "The insurance company has frozen your claim. They're filing criminal charges for insurance fraud. That's a federal offense, Amanda. FBI involvement. Prison time." "No." She shook her head frantically. "No, no, no. You have to stop this. You have to call them back and tell them it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake. You robbed me. You hired someone to break into my home and steal my property. You planned to collect $762,000 from insurance fraud. Those are facts." "Stop this!" The scream was desperate now, animal. "Please, Vernon, please. We'll give you back whatever you want. The house, the car, anything." "You should have thought of that before you robbed me." She dropped to her knees, actually dropped to her knees, hands clasped like she was praying. Tears streamed down her face, taking her makeup with them. She looked nothing like the polished, confident woman who'd served me tea after the robbery. She looked destroyed. "Please," she sobbed. "I'm begging you. Curtis will go to prison. We'll lose everything. Please." I watched her beg and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph. Just a cold, empty certainty that this was exactly what needed to happen. "You're right about one thing," I said. "You will lose everything. The house will be seized. The car. Your reputation. Your freedom. Everything you stole. Everything you bought with stolen money. Everything you built on lies. Gone. I hate you," she whispered through tears. "I hate you so much. You already said that. You should probably leave now. My lawyer advised me not to speak with you without legal representation present." She looked up at me with pure venom in her eyes. The mask was completely gone now. No more sweet daughter-in-law, no more concerned family member, just rage and hatred and fear. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. She stood up, unsteady, and backed toward the door. Curtis will never forgive you for this. Curtis made his choice when he hired Mark Walker. Now he lives with the consequences. She left, stumbling slightly, and I heard her car start. Heard the tires squeal as she peeled out of my driveway too fast, probably leaving rubber marks. I sat in my workshop, surrounded by scattered papers from the folders she'd thrown, and finally, I smiled. Not a happy smile, not triumphant, just satisfied. The first strike had landed, and judging by Amanda's reaction, it had hit exactly where I'd aimed. My phone rang. Ronald. Vernon, I just got a call from Southern States Insurance. The fraud investigation unit contacted the FBI. They're opening a formal case. Good. There's more. Curtis and Amanda just hired Philip Graham, criminal defense attorney, very expensive. They paid him a $25,000 retainer. Money they don't have. Exactly. They're in full panic mode. This is going to get ugly. I looked at my empty display cases, remembered Amanda's face when she realized she was caught. Thought about Curtis somewhere right now, learning the same truth. It's already ugly, I said. Now it's just getting even. A week after Amanda's meltdown in my workshop, Curtis called. Not Amanda this time. Him. Dad, can we meet? Please. I need to talk to you. His voice sounded broken. Small. Like the boy who used to call me when he had nightmares. Where? Anywhere you want. Coffee shop. Your house. I don't care. Please. We met at my house the next afternoon. I opened the door to find my son looking like he'd aged 10 years in a week. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled clothes, stubble on his face. He'd lost weight. Dad, he said, and his voice cracked. I let him in, but didn't offer coffee. Didn't pretend this was a social visit. We sat in the living room. Curtis kept twisting his hands together, not looking at me. I'm sorry, he finally said. I'm so sorry. I never wanted... I didn't think... You didn't think I'd find out? I didn't think you'd... He swallowed hard. Please, Dad. Please drop the lawsuit. We'll make it right. We'll sell the house, the car, give you everything. Just please stop this. I watched him beg and remembered Amanda doing the same thing a week ago. Same desperation. Same realization that their perfect plan had collapsed. No. Dad, please. You hired a professional criminal to rob me. You opened offshore accounts to hide stolen money. You planned this for months, and you thought I was too stupid, too old. Too broken to see it. Curtis's face crumpled. Tears started running down his cheeks. I know. It was wrong. Amanda said, she said it would be easy, that you'd never know, that the insurance would pay and you'd get the money back eventually anyway. So this was Amanda's idea? He nodded, wiping his eyes like a child. She wanted the mansion, the lifestyle. She said we deserved it. That you were sitting on all this money in the house and the collection, and you weren't even using it? She found Mark Walker, set everything up. I went along with it. You went along with robbing your father. I'm weak. The words came out in a sob. I know I'm weak. I've always been weak. But, Dad, please. Amanda's talking about leaving me. The dealership fired me. We're drowning in debt. The FBI called yesterday. We're going to lose everything. You already lost everything, the moment you decided to steal from me. He fell to his knees, actually fell to his knees, right there in my living room. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Community service, pay you back, anything. Just drop the charges, please. I'm your son. I looked at him kneeling on my floor and thought about all the times I'd saved him, paid his debts, covered his mistakes, let him live in my house rent-free while he got on his feet. This was different. You stopped being my son when you hired Mark Walker? Don't say that. Please don't say that. I changed my will, Curtis. Everything goes to charity when I die. You get nothing. His face went white. What? You wanted my money so badly you were willing to steal it. Now you'll never have it. Not $1. Dad, no. Get out of my house. Please. Get out. He stood up slowly, unsteady, like a man who'd been punched in the gut, looked at me with devastated eyes. I love you, Dad. If you loved me, you wouldn't have robbed me. He left. I heard his car start, heard him drive away, and sat in the silence of my living room for a long time. That same afternoon, Ronald called with news. Southern States Insurance just filed formal criminal charges with the district attorney's office. Insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and filing false claims. The DA's taking it seriously. They've assigned it to their white-collar crimes unit. And the FBI? They're all in. Federal insurance fraud, interstate wire fraud because of the Bahamas account, conspiracy. They contacted me for copies of all our evidence. How long before arrests? Could be weeks, could be months. They're building an airtight case. But Vernon, there's something else. The bank that holds Curtis and Amanda's mortgage contacted me. They've received our civil suit filings. They're reviewing Curtis and Amanda's loan application for fraud. Fraud? Curtis claimed he made $180,000 a year on his mortgage application. Claimed Amanda had income from consulting work. All lies. If the bank proves fraud on the application, they can demand immediate full payment. The entire $960,000 balance, which they don't have. Not even close. They're 3 months behind on payments already. The bank's starting foreclosure proceedings. I smiled grimly. The house Amanda had wanted so desperately, the symbol of her success, was being ripped away piece by piece. Good. 2 days later, Gerald called. Vernon, I've got something. Mark Walker's been arrested. The FBI? Yes. They picked him up this morning. He's looking at serious time. Parole violation, conspiracy, theft, receiving stolen property. But here's the interesting part. His lawyer's already talking about a deal. What kind of deal? Testimony against Curtis and Amanda in exchange for reduced charges. Walker's looking at 10 years minimum. If he cooperates, they might knock it down to 3. Will he cooperate? Criminal like Walker. The minute his lawyer explains the math, he'll sing like a canary. He has no loyalty to your son and daughter-in-law. They were just clients. I sat back in my chair, processing. So we'll have Walker's testimony. The video footage, the financial records, everything. Everything. It's not just airtight, Vernon. It's welded shut. They have no defense. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I went to my workshop and started cleaning. Swept up the broken glass from the display cases. Organized my tools. Started planning what I'd do with the space once this was all over. Maybe I'd rebuild the collection. Maybe I'd do something completely different. Either way, I wasn't defined by what they'd taken anymore. The following week, Catherine Hopkins called me. Vernon, I wanted to give you an update. Southern States has officially denied the insurance claim. We've also filed a recovery suit against Curtis and Amanda for our investigation costs. $47,000 so far. How are they responding? Their lawyer, Philip Graham, is trying to negotiate. Wants us to accept a settlement, drop the criminal referral, make this go away quietly. And we told him absolutely not. This is textbook insurance fraud. We're making an example of this case. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Catherine had worked insurance fraud for 20 years. She took it personally when people tried to steal from the company. Thank you, Catherine. Vernon, I want you to know what you did, bringing us this evidence. It took courage. I know Curtis is your son. Was my son? After I hung up, I sat in my workshop and thought about that. Was. Past tense. My son was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone who could look me in the eye and lie, someone who could hire criminals, someone who could betray family for money. That person wasn't Curtis anymore. Maybe he never really was. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. We need to talk. This is insane. You're destroying our lives over a mistake. Call me. I deleted it without responding. An hour later, another text. You're a vindictive old man. Curtis is sick over this. You're killing your own son. Delete. Another. Fine. We'll fight this. You'll see. We have a good lawyer. You won't win. I almost laughed at that one. They'd already lost. They just hadn't accepted it yet. I turned my phone off and went back to cleaning my workshop. Tomorrow, Ronald wanted to meet to discuss the civil case timeline. Next week, I had to give a deposition to the FBI. The machinery of justice was slow, but it was thorough, and it was just getting started. 3 weeks after Curtis's visit, Gerald called with the breakthrough I'd been waiting for. Vernon, you need to see this. I drove to his office in Chambly. He had his laptop open, a video paused on the screen. Remember the bar footage showing Curtis paying Walker? I went back to the tavern at Phipps, convinced the manager to let me review more footage. Look at this. He pressed play. The video showed Curtis and Mark Walker in the booth, but this time from a different angle. Curtis reaching into his jacket, pulling out a thick envelope, handing it across the table. Walker opening it right there, counting cash. You could actually see the bills. Walker's lips moving, probably counting. $15,000, Gerald said. You can see Walker count it, and look at the timestamp. The date on the video was exactly 2 months before my robbery. This is better than the first video, I said. It gets better. I found Walker's parole officer, name's James Rodriguez. He's cooperating with the FBI. Walker deposited exactly $15,000 in cash the day after this meeting. Claimed it was from selling a motorcycle, but couldn't produce a title or bill of sale. The FBI has all this. They do now. I sent it over this morning. And Vernon, there's more. Walker's attorney reached out to the prosecutor. Walker's ready to testify. Full cooperation. He's giving them everything. How Amanda contacted him, how they planned the robbery, where he sold the stolen items, all of it. I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. This was it. The last piece. When? FBI's moving fast. They want to arrest Curtis and Amanda before they try to flee. Could be any day now. That afternoon, I was in my garden, another hobby I'd neglected during the chaos, when I heard shouting from the street. I looked up to see Amanda's Tesla screech to a stop in front of my house. She got out, stormed up my driveway. Her hair was a mess, mascara smudged. She looked unhinged. "You've won, okay?" she screamed. "You've won. Are you happy now?" I set down my gardening trowel. "I didn't win anything. I just stopped you from stealing from me. The bank is taking the house. They're taking the car. Curtis lost his job. We have nothing. Nothing. You have each other, and Mark Walker's testimony. Don't forget that." Her face went slack. "What?" "Mark Walker. He's cooperating with the FBI, telling them everything, how you contacted him, how you planned the robbery, how much you paid him." She grabbed the fence for support. No, he wouldn't. We paid him. He doesn't talk. That's the deal. The deal was before he got arrested for federal crimes, before he was looking at 10 years in prison. Criminals don't have loyalty, Amanda. They have survival instincts. You're lying. Call the FBI. Ask them yourself. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I watched her try to dial, saw her fingers miss the numbers twice before she gave up. "This is all your fault," she said. "We would have been fine. The insurance would have paid. You would have gotten your money back. Everyone would have been happy. Except I would have been robbed, and you would have committed fraud. It's just money, just stupid money. It's my money, my property, my trust, and you stole all of it." She started crying, ugly, desperate sobs. "I can't go to prison. I can't. Do you know what they do to people like me in prison? You should have thought of that before you hired Mark Walker." "I hate you," she said through tears. "I wish you had died instead of Curtis's mother. I wish—" "Get off my property." "No, you're going to listen to me. You're a miserable old man who couldn't accept that your son found happiness. You're jealous and vindictive, and—" I said, "Get off my property. Now, or I call the police." She stared at me, chest heaving, face red and wet with tears. Then she turned and ran back to her car. Peeled out again, tires squealing. I went back to my gardening. That evening, Ronald called. "Vernon, Curtis tried to sell the Tesla today. The dealership called the bank. Turns out there's a lien on it because of the pending civil suit. Plus the car loan. He can't sell it." "How much does he owe on the loan?" $78,000. The car's worth maybe $80,000 now with the mileage they've put on it. After the loan payoff and selling costs, they'd clear maybe $500. So they're trapped. Completely. The house is in foreclosure. The car can't be sold. Curtis has no job. Amanda's trying to get work, but no one's hiring someone with pending federal charges. Their lawyer bills are piling up. Philip Graham isn't cheap. They're drowning. Good. Vernon, I should warn you. People this desperate do unpredictable things. You might want to— I'm fine, Ronald. They're not dangerous. Just stupid. 2 days later, I found out how stupid. Gerald called at 6 a.m. "Turn on the news, Channel 2. I turned on the TV local news. The headline made me sit down. Buckhead couple arrested in insurance fraud scheme. The video showed FBI agents leading Curtis and Amanda out of their mansion in handcuffs. Amanda was crying, trying to hide her face. Curtis looked straight ahead, expression blank, dead-eyed. The reporter's voice, Curtis, 38, and Amanda Curtis, 35, were arrested this morning on federal charges of insurance fraud, conspiracy, and filing false claims. The FBI alleges the couple orchestrated the robbery of Curtis's father's home to collect insurance money. If convicted, they face up to 10 years in federal prison. The camera panned to show the mansion. The for sale sign now had a bank-owned foreclosure banner across it. I watched my son get loaded into an FBI vehicle and felt relief. It was over. The investigation, the waiting, the wondering if they'd somehow escape. Over. My phone rang. Catherine Hopkins. Vernon, I assume you've seen the news. I have. The FBI moved fast. Walker's testimony sealed it. They couldn't risk Curtis and Amanda fleeing once they knew Walker was cooperating. What happens now? Arraignment, probably this afternoon. They'll plead not guilty, get released on bail if they can afford it, which they probably can't. Then it's a waiting game for trial. But Vernon, with Walker's testimony, the video evidence, the financial records, the prosecutor said they're hoping for a plea deal. They don't want to waste resources on a trial they've already won. How long? For a plea deal? Could be weeks, could be months. Federal system moves slower than state. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and thought about Curtis at 8 years old, at 15, at 25, all the versions of my son who'd existed before Amanda, before greed, before betrayal. Those versions were gone now. Maybe they'd been gone for years, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Philip Graham, Curtis and Amanda's attorney. We need to discuss a settlement. Please call me. I deleted it. Settlement time was over. Now came justice. The civil trial happened first, about 3 weeks after the arrest. I sat in the courtroom, Fulton County Superior Court, downtown Atlanta, watching Curtis and Amanda at the defendant's table. They looked smaller somehow, diminished. Curtis wore a cheap suit I didn't recognize. Amanda's designer clothes were gone, replaced by something off the rack from a discount store. Their lawyer, Philip Graham, looked tired, defeated before the battle even started. Ronald presented our case methodically. The stolen property valued at $85,000. The attempted insurance fraud of $762,000. The offshore account. The conspiracy with Mark Walker. The video evidence. The financial records. Philip Graham tried to argue, claimed there was no direct proof Curtis and Amanda had orchestrated the robbery. Suggested Mark Walker was lying to save himself. The judge, Honorable Margaret Chen, 58, no-nonsense veteran of the bench, wasn't buying it. Counsel, she said, interrupting Graham's argument, your clients opened an offshore account with exactly $847,000, 3 months before the robbery. That's the exact total of the stolen property, plus the insurance claim. Are you suggesting that's coincidence? Graham opened his mouth, closed it. Your Honor, and the video evidence showing Mr. Curtis paying Mr. Walker $15,000 in cash 2 months before the robbery. Also, coincidence? The defense would argue, save it for the criminal trial, Mr. Graham. This is civil court, preponderance of evidence, and the evidence here is overwhelming. I watched Curtis sink lower in his chair, watched Amanda grip the table, knuckles white. Judge Chen ruled from the bench. Didn't even take time to deliberate. I find for the plaintiff, Vernon Curtis, in the amount of $847,000 in damages plus $43,000 in legal and investigative costs, for a total judgment of $890,000. Furthermore, I'm placing immediate liens on all property owned by the defendants, including the residence at 1523 West Paces, Ferry Road, and the vehicle, a Tesla Model X. These assets will be seized and sold at auction to satisfy the judgment. The gavel came down. Final. Absolute. Amanda made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Curtis just sat there, staring at the table. Outside the courtroom, Ronald shook my hand. Congratulations, Vernon. That's as clean a victory as I've ever seen. When will the auction happen? 30 days. The bank has first claim on the house because of the mortgage. but there should be enough left over to cover a significant portion of your judgment. The Tesla will go toward the rest." I nodded. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about watching their palace of lies get dismantled, brick by brick. The following week, I got a call I'd been waiting for. "Gerald, Vernon, you're going to want to hear this. The FBI recovered your collection." I almost dropped the phone. "What?" "Mark Walker kept everything in a storage unit in Marietta. FBI raided it yesterday as part of his plea agreement. They found all 73 pocket watches, your mother's jewelry, even the cash. Well, $8,000 of it. Walker spent the rest." I sat down heavily. "They're intact?" "According to the inventory, yes. Some minor damage to a few pieces, but mostly intact. The FBI is processing them as evidence, but they'll be returned to you once the criminal case concludes." I looked at my empty display cases and felt something crack inside me. Not breaking, mending. "Thank you, Gerald." "There's more. The prosecutor called. They're offering Curtis and Amanda a plea deal. 3 years supervised probation, 500 hours community service, full restitution to you and Southern States Insurance, and they both have to allocate. That means publicly admit guilt in detail. And if they don't take the deal, trial. And they're looking at 10 years federal prison minimum. The prosecutor's confident he'll win. Will they take it? Their lawyer would be insane to advise otherwise. Trial's a guaranteed loss. At least with the plea, they avoid prison time. That same afternoon, I saw Curtis one last time before the plea hearing. Not planned. I was at the grocery store on Peachtree. He was there with Amanda. Both of them looked gaunt, tired. They were buying generic brands, the cheapest options. Our eyes met across the produce section. Curtis looked away first. Amanda grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the exit. I heard her hiss, "Don't! Just don't!" I finished my shopping and drove home. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel sad. Just complete. Like a watch that had been broken finally ticking again. The property auction was 3 weeks later. I didn't attend. Ronald represented me, but he called with the results. The mansion sold for $1,150,000. After the bank took their $960,000 for the mortgage, there's $190,000 left. The Tesla brought $81,000. After the loan payoff of $78,000, that's another $3,000. Total recovery, $193,000 toward your judgment. So they still owe me $697,000, which they'll never have. But the court can garnish any future wages, tax returns, inheritances. They'll be paying this off for the rest of their lives. I smiled at that. Not cruel, just satisfied. The prosecutor called a week before the plea hearing. "Mr. Curtis, I wanted to inform you that Curtis and Amanda Curtis have accepted the plea agreement. They'll be allocuting next week. I thought you might want to attend." "I'll be there." Fair warning, allocation can be emotional. They'll have to describe in detail what they did, admit their guilt publicly. Sometimes family members find it difficult to watch. I'll be fine. One more thing. You have the right to make a victim impact statement. Would you like to address the court? I thought about that. Thought about standing in front of Curtis and Amanda and telling them exactly how their betrayal had felt. Exactly what they'd taken from me. "Yes," I said, "I would." The plea hearing was scheduled for late morning in federal court. I arrived early, sat in the back row, and watched Curtis and Amanda enter with their lawyer. They looked broken. Curtis had lost at least 20 pounds. Amanda's hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, no makeup, wearing clothes that looked borrowed. They didn't look around the courtroom, didn't want to see who was watching, but they knew I was there. I could tell by the way Amanda's shoulders tensed, the way Curtis kept his head down. The judge, Honorable Richard Morrison, Federal District Court, called the proceeding to order. "Mr. and Mrs. Curtis, you've agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of insurance fraud and 1 count of conspiracy. Is that correct?" They both stood, both whispered, "Yes, Your Honor." "I need you to allocute, to tell this court in your own words what you did. Mrs. Curtis, let's start with you." Amanda's voice was barely audible. "In January, I contacted a man named Mark Walker. I knew he did burglaries. I asked him if he would rob my father-in-law's house. I gave him the alarm code, told him what to take, where the safe was. I paid him $15,000 up front. and promised another $15,000 after. Why did you do this? We wanted money, for a house, for a better life. I thought we could collect the insurance money and no one would know it was us. Mr. Curtis, what was your role? Curtis's voice cracked. I met with Mark Walker, gave him the money my wife got from cash advances on credit cards. I gave him copies of the appraisals for my dad's collection so he'd know what to take. I knew what we were doing was wrong. I did it anyway. Judge Morrison's face was granite. You conspired to rob your own father, a man who, according to these records, had supported you financially for years, who let you live in his home rent-free. Curtis nodded, tears running down his face. Yes, Your Honor. And you, Mrs. Curtis, you planned this crime in detail, opened offshore accounts to hide the proceeds, bought a mansion and luxury car before the insurance even paid out. Yes, Your Honor. Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. This court has reviewed the plea agreement, 3 years supervised probation, 500 hours of community service, and full restitution of $890,000 to Vernon Curtis, plus $120,000 to Southern States Insurance. You'll be making monthly payments for likely the rest of your lives. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. The judge turned to me. Mr. Curtis, you have the right to address the court. Would you like to make a statement? I stood up, walked to the front of the courtroom, stood 10 feet from Curtis and Amanda at their table. Curtis finally looked at me. His eyes were red, devastated. I spoke calmly, clearly. Your Honor, I worked as an insurance inspector for 38 years. I investigated hundreds of fraud cases. I sent dozens of criminals to prison. I never thought I'd be investigating my own son. What Curtis and Amanda did wasn't just theft. It was betrayal. They lived in my home, at my table, pretended to care about me while planning to rob me. They hired a criminal to violate my home, to steal items I'd spent decades collecting. Items that meant something to me, memories, history. They didn't just steal money. They stole my trust, my sense of safety in my own home, my relationship with my son. I want this court to know that I don't forgive them. I don't accept their apologies. They made their choices. Now they face the consequences. That's justice. I sat back down. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. The court accepts the plea. Defendants are hereby sentenced to 3 years supervised probation, 500 hours community service, and restitution as specified in the agreement. You're both fortunate Mr. Curtis didn't push for prison time. Dismissed. The gavel fell. Curtis and Amanda stood there looking at each other, no relief on their faces, just empty acceptance. Amanda turned toward me as they left the courtroom. Our eyes met. I saw everything in that look. Hatred, regret, defeat. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. I just looked at her, said nothing. She turned away. Outside the courthouse, Ronald was waiting. Well done, Vernon. That was powerful. It needed to be said. There's one more piece of good news. The FBI evidence release was processed this morning. Your pocket watches and your mother's jewelry are being returned to you. You can pick them up tomorrow. The next day, I drove to the FBI field office in Chambly. An agent led me to a room where 73 pocket watches were laid out on a table in clear evidence bags. My mother's jewelry, even $8,000 in cash, the remainder of what had been stolen. I stood there looking at them and felt tears in my eyes for the first time through this whole ordeal. Not tears of sadness, tears of relief. Mr. Curtis? The agent said. Are you all right? I'm fine. These are they're home. I spent the next 2 weeks carefully restoring each piece, cleaning them, checking their mechanisms, returning them to the display cases in my workshop. Some had minor damage, scratches, broken chains, but nothing irreparable. By the time I finished, it was late summer. The Georgia heat pressed against the windows of my workshop, but inside, everything was cool and quiet and right. I sat at my workbench with an 1887 Waltham pocket watch, the one my grandfather had carried, carefully adjusting its escapement. The tiny gears clicked into place with a satisfying precision. Behind me, the display cases gleamed. 73 timepieces, each one telling its own story, each one home where it belonged. My phone rang. Catherine Hopkins. Vernon, I wanted to let you know the final restitution payment to southern states came through. Curtis and Amanda's first payment, $850. Only $119,150 to go. She laughed dryly. At this rate, we'll be paid off sometime around 2060. Good. Let them pay. You sound satisfied. I am. Justice was served. Everything else is just details. After I hung up, I went back to the watch, set the time, wound the spring, listened to it tick. Steady. Reliable. Honest. Like it had always been. Like things should be. I thought about Curtis and Amanda somewhere in Atlanta, probably in a cheap apartment, working minimum wage jobs, making those monthly restitution payments, spending their weekends doing court-ordered community service, living with the criminal records that would follow them forever. I didn't feel guilty, didn't feel cruel. I felt right. They'd made their choices, chose greed over family, chose betrayal over honesty, chose quick money over integrity. And now they lived with those choices. I picked up another watch, an 1892 Elgin, beautiful silver case with railroad certification stamps, and started cleaning it. The work was meditative, peaceful. Outside my workshop window, I could see my garden, the flowers I'd been tending. Beyond that, the street where I'd lived for 23 years, my home, my sanctuary. They'd tried to take it from me, tried to reduce me to a victim, a mark, a foolish old man. They'd learned otherwise. I smiled and returned to my work, surrounded by the ticking of 73 pocket watches, each one marking time, each one a small victory against those who thought they could steal what wasn't theirs. Justice had been served, and time, as always, kept moving forward. If you like this story, subscribe to our new channel and listen to a few stories there. You can find the link to it in the collaboration or description of this video, or in the comments. Subscribe so you don't lose us, because this channel may soon cease to exist.
여기에다가 야, 내 식초 어디 갔냐? 쉣! 식초가 어딨지? 식초가 없는데 홍초로 해도 돼요? 식초 해도 돼요? 오케이. 아니 어차피 깨끗이 하기만 하면 되잖아. 맞지? 인정이지? 홍초